The local flankers cover all the bases. Lost in the battle of solitude and ordinance there, with cardiac coordinates to proceed.
I am the devil. I am the Lord Satan from the netherworld, ruler of the damned and eternal king of hell. Even I, the master of deceit, can only stomach so much bullshit from the mainstream media and indie grifters. That's why I tune in to Morning Extra with Uncle Warren, because he eliminates my competition, and also because I know I'm gonna see that motherfucker soon.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shit it all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shit it all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Greetings and salutations. Wait a minute. What in the name of Hades is going on here? Hold on just a second. Hold on. Wait a minute. Put a little bulla in it. This thing was working a while ago. I don't understand. Survey says, there we go. Little ticky, little Ricky ticky tabby down. The little ticker, my little ticker wasn't working. And at my age, if your ticker ain't working, uh-oh, you better watch the fuck out, mister. Sorry about that. A little delay in the game there, but we're back on track here. That's okay. Choozy's holding it down. He is the chat, as always. What's up, buddy? Props somewhere in the mix there, too. I see you. And Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. Yeah, it is, man. It's chilly willies outside. I think it's up to 23 now, maybe. Global solidarity with all the weird bulla things there, definitions. It's actually it's hey, what's up, Moose? Good to see you. Just get in. You sure did. Just in time for the partay. It's ExtraBulla is Latin. It means outside the bubble, right? So it's Latin for bubble. So yeah, it could be like all that other shit you said too, but we're doing bubbles here. And the point is you don't want to be inside the bubble, because that's where all the nonsense is, right? All the non-true stuff. You got to go outside the bubble. That's where you get the truth. You know the thing. Man, it's Friday morning. It's already the 6th of December. Ho, ho, ho. Coming up 2 weeks from Monday, that'll be December 23rd. It's Festivus for the rest of us. And some of you youngsters are like, what's Festivus? As well, just gather around and listen. Stay a while and listen, as they said in Diablo 2. So it's basically, it's a Seinfeld bit that we're basically, we have friends over and we just complain about things because we're old people. That's what old people do. You hit a certain age, it's like, you get this coupon book full of complaints, and it's like, you get, you could use all these complaints now that you're of a certain age. So anyway, hopefully this will be a little bit more grown out. We'll get a little, drunk Santa Claus in the mix too. Who knows? So yeah, we'll have a Festivus poll. And if you don't know what it's about, just look up Festivus Seinfeld on YouTube and you'll see a clip of it and you go, oh, that's just there. Yeah, it's there, but it's fun. And it's a good reason to get folks together. So we're still gathering the troops to see who wants to come on. It's on a Monday night, 2 days before Christmas. So we might be might be no dice. A dingo, me baby, over on Rumble. Hello. Good morning and good cold day to you too as well. No, there's no feats of strength, Ed. You can't do that on a live stream. I mean, how are you going to wrestle over the internet? Extra boomer? What? Extra Gen X? Gen Extra is what you should be saying, dingo. How dare you? I said good day. The airing of grievances, though, is the best. That's basically what you're there for, is to just basically air your grievances. Boy, do I got a bunch this year. Holy shnikes. Everybody gets it. All the ones who deserve it. So yeah, that's going to be on the 23rd. That's going to be like on a Monday night. We'll see who wants to be involved with that. Should be fun. I know, Dingo. You always know how to push my boomer buttons, though. I'm not a boomer. I know those people. Ick. Ew. Come on. At least give me my proper Gen X respect. That's all I want. Just a little taste. I know. Busting balls. That's fine. Big weekend coming up. Tomorrow's the anniversary of Pearl Harbor getting smacked down 83 years ago. December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy. I don't know, I'm talking like that. It's almost like Mayor Quimby from The Simpsons. Vote Quimby. Those pictures don't prove anything. They could be anyone's ass. Good times. Back when The Simpsons were pretty decent. I think they've been on like 50 years. Jesus Christ. So anyway, that's coming up. I don't know. Christmas Day is on a Wednesday, so I don't know if we'll have a proper show then. What we might be doing some fun stuff, maybe some gaming that day. We usually I like the holidays to do that kind of stuff. So we've got a new game that I want to check out too. So, but no, I can't tell you about it right now. I have to tell you about it later. Anyway, let's get on. We got a lot of business to attend to here. If I can get my shit closer here. Come on now. Nobody's cooperating with Daddy this morning. That's fine. Of course, this being the holidays, we always have to think about our family and our friends too. And one of our pals, Chanda Masta, is, she's been battling cancer for the last few months, at least, if not longer. And she's been doing chemo and radiation therapy, and a lot of that stuff's pretty expensive. So if you can, she has a GoFundMe link down below in the description. If you want to click on there and drop her some cash, I'm very sure she would appreciate that. Every little bit helps because, healthcare in America, freedom ain't free and neither is healthcare. So we need to help her out. And if you don't have the funds, that's fine. Just share out the link. She'll appreciate that too. So we always like to do that for her. And hopefully she's getting the necessary treatment she needs and the funds she needs to take care of it too. So good luck to you, sweetie. Hope everything's going good. So some of the pictures she's been showing on Facebook, she's looking pretty good. So, the treatment seems to be doing well. So keep them going, full speed. All right, let's get to it. So, what's going on in France, you may be asking? Well, look into these dead eyes. Oh, I am the French ghost of hate. France's Macron pledges to stay in office until the end of his term. And you're like, well, of course he would. Why wouldn't he, silly beans? Like, nah, I want the croissant. I want the beignet. I want the crawfish étouffée. Sorry. Little Pepe Le Pew vibes going on there. I will get the cat that looks like a skunk. French President Emmanuel Macron says he will stay on until the end of his 5-year term until May 2027 after a no-confidence vote in Parliament toppled the government. Womp womp. Speaking to the nation in a televised address yesterday, Macron said he would name a new prime minister in the coming days. The mandate you have given me is for 5 years, and I will exercise it until the very end, Macron asserted during the 10-minute speech. He pointed blame at his opponents on the far right for bringing down the government of Prime Minister Michel Barnier. He said they chose not to do, but to undo. They chose disorder, he said, adding the far right and the far left had united in what he calls an anti-Republican front, and stressed that I won't shoulder other people's irresponsibilities, you feminine female skunk. That takes a lot of breath to do, Peppy. A total of 331 lawmakers in France's 577-seat National Assembly voted to remove the government in the no-confidence vote on Wednesday, forcing Barnier to step down after 3 months in office, the shortest tenure of any prime minister in modern French history. Go France! Look at you breaking those glass ceilings. Barnier submitted his resignation in a meeting with Macron at the Élysée Palace area. I just want to talk like Pepe all the time. Macron took note of the resignation and asked Barnier and his government to continue in a caretaker capacity again until the appointment of a new government. The LSC said in a statement. Barnier's removal came after snap parliamentary elections in June and July resulted in a hung house, giggity, with no political force able to form an overall majority, and the far right holding the key to the government's survival. Allies in Macron's camp have joined the chorus among urging swift action after the snap elections. It took Macron nearly 2 months to appoint Barnier. See, that's what you do when you're like, when the people want a little left-wing action and you're saying, you're bringing in, Alex Peake Eaton, the president of the Young Republicans Club. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Troll? Hello, troll. Are you a generic troll? What is this? I don't even. Yeah, welcome to my world. I say that on the daily. Welcome, I guess. I recommend that he proceed quickly to the appointment of a prime minister. It's important. We must not leave things up in the air. National Assembly President Yael Braun-Pivet told France Inter Radio before meeting Macron earlier on Thursday. Francois Bayrou, whose name is often invoked by French media as a possible successor to Barnier, was due to have lunch with Macron, Le Parisien newspaper, and other media reported. Bayrou is a veteran centrist politician and a close Macron ally. Outgoing Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu has also been noted as a possible candidate for prime minister. There was no word yet of a possible Macron meeting with him. The political turmoil in France further weakens a European Union already reeling from the collapse of Germany's coalition government. Yeah, remember them? Teats up, and comes just weeks before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House. Uh-oh, drunk daddy's finally made his way back from the bar. Any new prime minister will face the same challenges that led to Barnier's downfall, notably pushing the 2025 budget through a deeply divided parliament at a time when France needs to fix ailing public finances. This is the logical conclusion of what France and its lawmakers are at the moment, a mess. 75-year-old Parisian Paulo. That sounds like sort of like some French mafia guy. I am Parisian Paulo. I will break your legs unless you give me a croissant. Told the Reuters news agency, commenting on the latest developments. And if you're French out there, I really apologize for offending you in particular if you're cool. If you're not cool, fuck off. I don't really care. Analyst Jean-Christophe Gallien said the lack of a majority in Parliament would continue to be an obstacle to the president's ability to govern. What happens next is difficult to understand now. This National Assembly is without any kind of majority. There are only minorities, Gallien, a lecturer of political science at the Sorbonne University, told Al Jazeera. There are 13 political groups and there is no solution for the moment. All right, the cream pie ninja showed up. Yay! This show keeps getting better and better. A French president cannot be pushed out unless 2/3 of lawmakers decide he has gravely failed to fulfill his role. according to a never-invoked article of the Constitution. Some 64% of voters want Macron to resign, according to the Toluna Harris Interactive poll for RTL broadcaster. A small majority of voters approve of Parliament bringing down Barnier, but many are worried about its economic and political consequences, the poll suggested. Under French constitutional rules, there cannot be a new parliamentary election held before July. Wow. Oh, to be in France this time of year. Yeah, exactly. So, meanwhile, come on, science. Why do you do this to me? Wait, is that right? We only had the one French thing? I thought we had two French things. No? Okay. It's just old Frenchies there. Pardon me. I am so disheveled. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Are we back on track? Okay, cool. Yeah, so, we were talking about South Korea and the other day and their, oopsie sauce with martial law. Huh? Yeah, so South Korea in general gives a confused account of a failed crackdown. Now, this is from New York Times, so you take this as you will. This is by Cho Sam-hung, reporting from Seoul. South Korea's military agents of terror and violence in the 1970s and 80s spent decades scrupulously cleaning up its image to become what many people in the country came to see as a modern and disciplined force. But that image was shattered yesterday when the general who led a short-lived spasm of martial law this week was grilled in Parliament, a rambling appearance that cast the military as ill-prepared and disorganized from the top down. This is South Korea, y'all. We were not militarily prepared because it was put into action in such a hurry, General Park An-soo, the Army Chief of Staff, told a parliamentary hearing yesterday. There was confusion. His testimony offered the first opportunity for lawmakers to question the military about the martial law order handed down on Tuesday night by President Yoon Suk-yeol. The decree plunged the country into a political crisis, sparking widespread anger that drove thousands of protesters to the streets. Mr. Yoon was forced to reverse course after just 6 hours. That was just 6 hours of martial law in South Korea, and people started going apeshit. And you know how nice South Koreans are, man. You imagine that shit happens here? What's up, Fred? Good to see you. If you have brunch with a Frenchman, they'll expect troll. Oh, mon ami, why? Why would you say that? You're so dirty. No, I'm kidding. General Park insisted that he had not had any role in the planning. He told lawmakers he had been caught off guard, first learning of it when Mr. Yoon announced the extraordinary move on television. He even learned about it while he was on television. The military's follow-up announcement under his name banned all political activities and public rallies and asserted control over media outlets, among other steps. But in his account on Thursday, General Park claimed he had not read it until his signature was requested. He described being at a loss over how to proceed as commander, unsure of what steps to take beyond trying to set up a new office. We were military people, some of us the best I know, General Park said at a meeting with aides after he was made martial law commander, but we didn't know much about martial law. Time passed while we wondered, what should we do? Yeah, that's good. Hey, you're in control of shit. What are you going to do? Dunno. His testimony was clearly aimed at rebutting the idea that the military had returned to its old brutal ways, but it appeared unlikely to ease any of the anger from protesters, some of whom had lived through the traumatic era of military rule and had been part of the popular uprising that ushered in South Korea's democracy. In the 1970s and 80s, the military used martial law to send troops into towns and college campuses to violently suppress anti-government protesters. These are our allies. Remember that. Massacring hundreds. It censored the news media, hauling unfriendly journalists into torture dungeons. Army generals beat up lawmakers. Crazy times. South Koreans fought back with stones, firebombs, and massive protest rallies. By the 1990s, the generals who had taken power through coups and bloodshed were in prison on charges of mutiny. The military worked to clean up its image, vowing not to meddle in politics. Many South Koreans believe them. That's why footage broadcasts on Tuesday night of helicopters dropping elite troops to take over the National Assembly deeply shocked the nation. Emblematic of the rage was the scene of a young woman grabbing a paratrooper's rifle barrel on Tuesday night at the assembly, yelling, "Shame on you." The woman, Nguyen Ryong, had rushed to the assembly after the martial law declaration to find troops trying to force their way into the building to prevent lawmakers inside from voting to repeal the order. Citizens and parliamentary staff were resisting the troops. "I thought we had to stop them no matter what," Miss Ann, a spokesman for the main opposition Democratic Party, said in an interview. "I thought if they broke in, we had no future." Miss Ann grew up in a democratized South Korea. Her knowledge of martial law came from history textbooks and movies. When some lawmakers in her party suggested that the deeply unpopular Mr. Yoon could deploy martial law to silence his critics, she said she wondered whether he might do it. Well, guess what? Turns out he did. What's up, Amber? Good morning. When it happened, it felt not real. This happening in the 21st century South Korea, she said. There is a lot of blame for the military, but the one who is to blame the most is Yoon Suk-yeol, who made his military train its guns on its own citizens. The hearings on Thursday were an attempt to understand how and why that happened. The questioning lasted hours and appeared tense at times as lawmakers raised their voices in frustration. General Park told them he did not know who had ordered the troops to storm the National Assembly, a striking claim from the man who is ostensibly their commander. "Oh, no, I don't know who told them kids to go in there." When some lawmakers urged him to resign, General Park said he had already offered to do so. The country's deputy defense minister, Kim Seon-ho, testified that the defense minister, Kim Yong-hyun, had ordered in the troops, a move he said he had opposed. Right? So South Korea's defense minister is resigning over this nonsense. He said, "That's it for me. Mic drop. I'm out." Delicious, delicious mic drop. So as we said, South Korea's president, Yoon Suk-yeol, has accepted the resignation of the country's defense minister, Kim Yong-hyun, and nominated the country's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Choi Byung-hyuk, as the new defense minister. This is why I don't do Korean stories very often. Those names, yeah. The president's office confirmed the nomination of Choi, a former army general, as the new defense minister yesterday, South Korea's Yonhap news agency reports. Yonhap said that Kim had proposed to President Yoon that he declare martial law on Tuesday night, a move that was quickly cut short after South Korea's parliament voted for Yoon to reverse his decision. Yoon's nomination of a new defense minister in his first official act since revoking the declaration of martial law in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The reversal sent hundreds of South Korean troops who had briefly stormed into the National Assembly compound in Seoul back to their barracks. Amid public outrage at the attempt to impose martial law and condemnation of Yoon by opposition parties, South Korea's parliament introduced a motion early Thursday to impeach the president. "We tired of your nonsense. It's time to go." South Korean police also announced on Thursday they were investigating Yoon for insurrection, a crime that transcends presidential immunity and can carry the death penalty, after the opposition filed a complaint against him and other key figures involved, right? So let's talk about this treason, right? South Korea's Yoon-focused police treason probe. This guy, he's like, "Man, I can't catch your break. You know what I'm saying? I'm wearing this tie." I don't really have anything against the tie. It was just the first thing I saw. Police in South Korea opened an investigation into the president for alleged treason related to his brief declaration of martial law this week. South Korea's Yonhap News reported that a team at the National Police Agency has been assigned to investigate the president, while allegations of treason have also been made against the country's recently resigned defense minister, Kim Yong-hyun, as well as Army Chief of Staff General Park An-soo and Interior Minister Lee Sang-min. The four have been accused of treason and other related charges for their roles in the declaration and subsequent lifting of martial law on Tuesday night. the news agency reports. One complaint for treason was filed against the president by a minor opposition party, and a second was submitted by a group of 59 activists, Jan Hepp said, citing nonspecific threats from anti-state forces and obstructionist political opponents. President Yoon imposed martial law for about 6 hours late on Tuesday night before reversing course after Parliament held a vote to oppose the move and people took to the streets in protest. And what's the Iron Man meme with Tony Stark with the glass? He's at the bar and he goes, "Not a great plan." Exactly, not a great plan. Well, the Polish government anyway is aiming to piss off as many people in their region as possible, particularly Russia. So Russia has closed its Polish consulate in St. Petersburg in a retaliatory move, and now it's a Halloween store now. So it's so they closed the consulate. Now it's a Halloween store for next year. Because it's never too early to save on Halloween, even in Russia. Russia said yesterday that it decided to close Poland's consulate general in St. Petersburg in response to Poland's decision to close the Russian consulate in Poznan. In Poznan? That's it, the name? Poznan? That's how you say it? The Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement it was also declaring 3 of the Polish consulate's diplomatic staff members persona non grata. They love throwing that around. And that they would have to leave Russia by a certain date. It was emphasized to the Polish side that Moscow had taken and will continue to take tough retaliatory measures against any unfriendly steps towards Russia, the statement said. Poland's foreign minister Radoslaw Sikorski told Reuters that Russia had no right to react in such a way, as Poland's decision to close the consulate in Poznan was a reaction to Russia's sabotage and arson in Poland. And we do not conduct arson or sabotage in Russia. However, everyone knows what Russia is like, so this is not an unexpected action, Sikorski added. So they said, we're closing it up. It's going to be a Halloween store. Come get your savings soon. Because, those things be expensive once you get around August, September. I'm just saying, I'm trying to help you save a few bucks, if you like Halloween, and I know you do. Meanwhile, Ukraine is telling the U.S. to fuck off. We leave them saying, hey, Westies, leave them kids alone. So Ukraine rejects U.S. call to lower a draft age to 18 years old. A Ukrainian official announced that Kiev has rejected the U.S. request to reduce the minimum age for military conscription from 25 to 18. Our position is as transparent as possible. We will not lower the mobilization age, the anonymous Ukrainian officials were quoted as saying on Thursday. Reports indicate that Ukraine's military is using extreme measures to compel draft dodgers to fight. Ukrainian military recruiters have carried out several raids on restaurants and bars, to apprehend fighting-age men aiming to fill the ranks of a military already strained by widespread desertion. To address its troop shortage, Kiev has been urging the West to provide more advanced military equipment, weapons, and ammunition. Ukrainian officials said that the army must be technologically advanced and have enough weapons. We will not compensate, for example, for the lack of weapons or their range with the youth of the guys. So even Nazis say, hey, man, we're not letting kids fight in this war. Although the Nazis had kids 18 years old, fighting back in the day. So, I don't know. Maybe they have a conscience now. Probably not. Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, in Romania, home of Count Chocula, blah. Romania's top court annuls results of presidential elections first round. Dun, dun, dun. Who's this lady? Look at that, man. She seems nice. This dog's like, I really have to take a crap. But Dracula's near. I'm scared. No, I'm kidding. Romanians are like, fuck you, man. Dracula, ain't no Dracula here. Man, I tell you, ain't no damn no dang old Dracula here. Oh, dang bang dang don't go. Romania's top court has annulled the results of the first round of the presidential election and says the process must be rerun after allegations that Russia ran a coordinated campaign to promote the far-right candidate who emerged as the frontrunner. The Constitutional Court's decision on Friday, which is final, came after President Klaus Iohannis, we'll say Johannes, declassified intelligence this week that alleged Romania was the target of aggressive hybrid Russian attacks during the election period. The alleged effort included thousands of social media accounts that promoted far-right populist Colin Georgescu across platforms such as TikTok and Telegram. The court has decided to annul the entire electoral process for the election of the president of Romania to ensure the correctness and legality of the electoral process, it said in Friday's decision. Georgescu, a pro-Russian candidate who wants to end Romania's support for Ukraine amid Russia's invasion, emerged as the front-runner in the first-round vote on November 24th, despite being a political outsider who declared zero campaign spending. I guess that's him right there. He was due to face pro-European Union centrist Elena Lasconi of the Save Romania Union Party in a runoff on Sunday. Voting is already underway in polling stations abroad. Lasconi condemned the ruling on Friday, saying the Constitutional Court's decision is illegal, immoral, and crushes the very essence of democracy, voting. George Simion, leader of the opposition hard-right Alliance for Uniting Romanians, called the decision a coup d'etat. 9 politically appointed judges, scared that a candidate outside the system had all chances to become Romania's president, decided to annul Romanians' will, Simion added. But Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu expressed support for the court's ruling, saying it was the only correct decision after the declassified document showed alleged Russian interference. The intelligence files released on Wednesday were run from the Romanian Intelligence Service, the Foreign Intelligence Service, the Special Telecommunications Service, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs. In light of their release, the Constitutional Court received multiple legal complaints urging it to annul the first-round vote, but it is not clear yet on what grounds it made the decision, of course. A new date will now be set to rerun the first round. The electoral process to elect Romania's president will be fully rerun, and the government will set a new date and calendar for the necessary steps, the Constitutional Court said in a statement. Romania, man. Not only do your hey Bella, what's going on? I know, right? Not only do your politics suck, you know, your vampires suck too. All right, that's enough with the vampire jokes. Sorry. I'm just saying. I don't do many Romania stories, so you know. Forgive me, my Romanian friends out there, if I still have any left. Meanwhile, Pakistani court indicts former Premier Imran Khan over May 2023 attacks on military posts. There he is. He goes, 1 is the loneliest number. It's the only number. A Pakistani court yesterday indicted imprisoned former Prime Minister Imran Khan and dozens of his associates on charges of inciting people to attack military and government installations last year, officials and his party said. Khan pleaded not guilty when charges were read out to him in court in the garrison city of Rawalpindi, according to officials and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, or PTI. Khan and the others, will go on trial under anti-terrorism laws that carry punishment up to life in prison. PTI said that top party official Omar Ayub Khan, the current opposition leader in parliament, also was arrested by police on Thursday. He was wanted on separate charges that included incitement of violence in the capital last week. The indictments against Khan and the dozens of his party members stem from widespread violence on May 9th, 2023, that was sparked by Khan's arrest at the time on corruption charges. Thousands of demonstrators attacked the military's headquarters in the garrison city of Rawalpindi stormed an airbase in Mianwali in the eastern Punjab province and torched a building housing state-run Radio Pakistan in the northwest. I think there's another one to this. Is there more? Yes. So, and then not just him, but wait, there's more. They're going after his old lady, too. So, Pakistan court issues arrest warrant for ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's wife. Uh-oh. The wrath of Khan. The wrath of wifey. A Pakistani court yesterday issued an arrest warrant for Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi. I'm not going to comment on that. In a graft case, local TV ARY News said a move that could lead to her rearrest 2 months after she was freed from jail on bond. Exactly, Bella. You see what I'm saying? Every time I hear Khan, if you know, you know. Bushra Khan, known more formally as Bushra Bibi, you don't want to evoke that, baby. A term that denotes respect, was released from prison in October after being detained for 9 months over an ongoing case involving the illegal sale of state gifts during her husband's tenure in office from 2018 to 2022. Both she and Khan, who is currently in prison pending other trials, are accused of allegedly selling gifts worth more than 100 million rupees that Khan received during his premiership and which belong in state possession. They both deny the charges. Bibi, who I don't know why they have to put the people's name in there or their age. Come on. Bibi, who mobilized thousands of supporters from Khan's Pakistan, the PTI party, to demand his release during massive protests last month, was forced to escape to the northwestern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is ruled by the party after a paramilitary force broke up the rally in Islamabad. The court in Islamabad issued a fresh warrant in her name in the same case on Thursday, ARY News reported, potentially allowing the National Accountability Bureau, or NAB, Pakistan's anti-graft agency, which enjoys jurisdiction across the country, to arrest her. The protests turned violent, and Khan's party alleged, without immediately providing evidence, that hundreds of its supporters had suffered gunshot wounds, leaving nearly a dozen dead. The government has denied it, saying no protesters were killed. Khan! That was conspicuous. You get it? See, it was the thing. Apparently, India has a bromance with Israel. Sorry, India fans. Not Indiana, but I'm sure they do too. India doubles down on pro-Israel policy, saying national interest drives arms transfers. Look at it. He's throwing up deuces, baby. See, he said, we're doubling down, son. You heard? India will be guided by its national interest before reconsidering the transfer of weapons or arms sales to Israel, the country's external affairs minister has said, in yet another sign that Delhi is committed to providing diplomatic and military cover for Israel's genocide in Gaza. Ooh, Kitty likes to scratch their Middle East eye. Is this what this is? Is this Middle East eye? I think it is. Yeah, they don't play. They'll cut your eyes out. Yesterday, several opposition politicians took the opportunity to use the Q&A session in Parliament to probe India's Internal Affairs Minister, S.J., I'm not saying that name, Subramanyam Jashankar, on India's policies, including its decision to abstain from several U.S. resolutions on Gaza, as well as to clarify its position on the International Criminal Court's decision to issue warrants for Israeli Prime Minister and human thumb Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Dr. J said that India officially supports the two-state solution, but if resolutions did not adequately condemn terrorism or the holding of hostages in reference to the Hamas-led attacks on southern Israel last year, Delhi could not sign them. As a country that has suffered from terrorism, India cannot support resolutions that underplay such acts. Resolutions must be well drafted, balanced, and reflect the entirety of the situation, he said. On the ICC warrants, Dr. J said that India was not a signatory to the ICC and had not taken a formal position on the matter. The Indian government has been under scrutiny over the past several months with reports that Indian arms, ammunition, and technology were making their way to Israel's army for potential use in operations in Gaza. In late November, Middle East Eye found that an AI weapon system used by Israeli ground forces in Gaza was co-produced by the Indian company Adani Defense and Aerospace. The revelations stirred concerns among activists and politicians over Indian complicity in Israeli war crimes, culminating in several attempts to pressure the government to impose an arms embargo on Israel. These efforts have mostly fallen on deaf ears. In September, the Indian Supreme Court dismissed a petition seeking to suspend military exports from India. India is the largest purchaser of Israeli weapons, accounting for around $1 billion of trade per year. Since 2017, both countries have considered their partnership a strategic relationship, with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's administration and Israeli fuckhead Bibi over their office often making a public spectacle of their friendship. When asked whether Delhi had any intention to consider a call by Palestine's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Varsin Agabekian, to impose an arms embargo on Israel way back in May, Dr. J said that while India was a responsible member of various international regimes with a fully fledged export control and licensing process, it made decisions based on what was best for the country, which means money, baby. The issue of India's exports, including India's exports of anything which directly or indirectly has any military implications, is guided by our national interest and by our commitments to various regimes. Where Israel is concerned, it is a country in which we have a strong record of cooperation and national security. It's also a country that has stood by us at different moments when our national security was under threat. So when we take any decision, we will bear in mind, obviously, the larger circumstances, but we will definitely be driven by our national interest in this matter. Their natural interest. What's the national interest? Money? Dr. J said that India had increased its aid to Palestinians from $1 million to $5 million per annum, but given that India has refused to endorse any arms embargo on Israel and has instead been accused of sending combat drones, bombs, and components for the Israeli military as it conducts a genocide in Gaza, the increase in aid is likely to be seen as little more than lip service. Of course it is, especially if you're helping provide the weapons that are, causing this need for this aid. At a separate foreign policy event held by the Asia Society in New York, Nirupama Roa, India's former external minister, defended India's Palestine policy, arguing that even if India had moved notably closer to Israel and the U.S. over the past few years, it would be wrong to say Delhi had abandoned the Palestinian people. It would be incorrect to say that India has abandoned the interests of the Palestinian people, Rao said in response to a question from MEE. Rao, who was India's external minister between 2009 and 2011, said Palestine had always been a cornerstone of India's foreign policy, given its relationship with the Arab world. However, Roa cautioned that any peace deal that excluded the Palestinian people would come to Israel's detriment. Otherwise, peace will never come to that region, and even Israel's, stability for the future, I think, comes into question because it will always be a nation under threat, always look at its neighborhood as threatening it. So that is really not a good place to be for any country, Rao added. Yeah, so that's India looking at you. So what's going on in Syria, you may be asking. You may not be. I don't know. Let me take a break here for a second. Okay, Choosy. What are you writing now? Choosy putting the Magna Carta in the fucking chat. I bust Choosy's balls, but it's fine. I don't care. We're glad you're here, Choosy. So Syrian opposition forces, they keep moving in Syria. They captured the key city of Hama in a new blow to al-Assad. Opposition forces have captured Hama in central Syria, the latest victory for the rebels since they launched a lightning offensive 8 days ago and a major blow to President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian army said opposition forces entered Hama yesterday after intense fighting, prompting its units to withdraw from the city. The army said in a statement it was redeploying its forces to preserve civilian lives and prevent urban combat after intense clashes. Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, the leader of the most powerful opposition armed group HTS, a former al-Qaeda affiliate, declared that opposition forces had full control over Hama. Al Jazeera's Rasul Serdar said the taking of Hama was a major development. In just over a week, they have managed to take full control of Syria's second largest city, Aleppo, and now the fourth largest city, Serdar said, reporting from the Turkish city of Kilis on the border with Syria. The opposition also took over the city's military airport, Serdar said, one of the largest in Syria that has been used by government forces to launch strikes against rebels. Today, they managed to breach the regime's front lines and get into the city from the eastern part, Serdar said, adding that a significant number of residents in Hama fled the city. Beginning last Wednesday, opposition groups led by HTS pushed south from areas under their control in northwest Syria, capturing Aleppo over the weekend before reaching a strategic hill just north of Hama on Tuesday and advancing towards the city's east and west flanks. The rapid collapse of Syrian government control in the north appears to reveal a shift in the balance of power since the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, a linchpin of al-Assad's battlefield force, suffered heavy losses in its war with Israel. Al-Assad relied heavily on Russian and Iranian backing throughout the most intense years of Syria's more than 13-year war, with Allied forces helping him to claw back most territory and the biggest cities before the front lines froze in 2020 with a ceasefire. But Russia has been focused on its war in Ukraine since 2022, while many senior leaders in Hezbollah, the most powerful Iran-aligned force, were killed in Israeli attacks in recent months. In a video statement, al-Jilani warned against any involvement by other Iran-aligned force, Iraq's Hashd al-Shabi paramilitary coalition. Some Iraqi fighters entered Syria early this week to support Assad, Iraqi and Syrian sources said. The Hashd al-Shabi has mobilized along the border with Syria, saying this was purely preventative in case of spillover into Iraq. We urge him, Iraq's prime minister, again, to keep Iraq away from entering into the flames of a new war tied to what is happening in Syria, Jilani said. Robert Geis-Penfold from Durham University said if the opposition manages to hold Hama, it would have both symbolic and strategic significance. Hama is the birthplace of Sunni armed Islamist resistance against the Ba'ath Party of Bashar al-Assad and his father, Penfold told Al Jazeera. The capture of Hama would also open up the road to Homs. It would open up the road to Damascus, he said. Homs is the main central city and functions as a crossroads connecting Syria's most populous regions. Hama is also critical to the control of two major towns with sizable minority religious communities, Muhrada, which is home to many Christians, and Salamiyah, where there are many Ismaili Muslims. Hama province also borders the coastal region of Latakia, a main base of popular support for al-Assad. Prior to Thursday, Hama had stayed in government hands throughout the war, which erupted in 2011 as a rebellion against al-Assad. Samuel Ramani, an associate fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, said Damascus was likely temporarily redeployed forces to avoid major losses of lives under urban combat, and then they'll regroup with the required military assistance and try to retake, Hama said. Russia is assessing the situation in Syria and is in constant contact with the Syrian authorities, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said yesterday. At the moment, we're closely monitoring what's happening in Syria. We're in constant dialogue with our Syrian friends with Damascus, he told reporters. Depending on the assessment of the situation, we will be able to talk about the degree of assistance that is needed by the Syrian authorities to cope with the militants and eliminate this threat. This is very interesting. So the Syrians' allies, Hezbollah and Russia, both tied up in their own convenient little wars. So, hey, Fingerman, what's going on? Late but awake. Hey, as long as you're here. What's up, Kate? Good to see you. It's all right, dear. Better late than never. Yeah, and that's what this whole conflagration of all these countries, with how Ukraine and Russia are also involved in all this Middle East, nightmare fuel that's going on. The HTS warlord demands Baghdad stay out of Syria as Iraqi anti-terror forces amass on the border. So again, telling them to beware. Whoa, somebody's coming. HTS leader Abu Muhammad al-Jilani urged Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to keep his country distant from Syria's war. Because we know the Iraqi resistance had vowed to help Syria as well, I believe. We urge him to distance Iraq from entering the new furnace of what is happening in Syria, he said in a video message posted on the group's Telegram channel. In particular, the leader of the UN-designated terrorist organization called on Baghdad to do what is required to prevent the Popular Mobilization Units, the PMU, from supporting the Syrian Arab Army, the SAA. The PMU, also known as Hashd al-Sha'abi, is a group of anti-terror militias allied with the Regional Axis of Resistance. Founded in 2014 with Iranian support, the PMU was instrumental in defeating ISIS in December 2017. Remember ISIS? Remember those people? The group later received government recognition as a semi-official military outfit with similar legal rights as the National Army. Since the start of the extremist offensive in northwest Syria last week, Baghdad has deployed thousands of troops to the Iraq-Syria border. Iraqi forces from the Ministry of Defense, other supporting security agencies, and the PMU are on high alert along the border with Syria. Military reinforcements have been sent to Anbar province, particularly to the border area, to enhance security and prepare for emergencies. Ali Naama al-Bindawi, a member of Iraq's Parliamentary Security and Defense Committee, told Shafaq News Thursday. Qasim Musli, the head of operations for the PMU in Anbar province, confirmed that the group's deployments to the Syrian border followed Sudani's directives to support and back up the border police. Musli added that the operation aims to enhance the readiness of security forces in the event of an emergency. Jilani's video message to the Iraqi premier came hours before Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein held a tripartite summit, what the hell is that, with his counterparts from Syria and Iran to discuss the rapidly unfolding security developments in Syria and the broader regional implications. So this HTS is this rebel group that is taking over there. So once again, probably CIA-led, or at least CIA-fed in some respects. But Hezbollah is, even though they have been weakened in their war with Israel, they still support Syria. So Hezbollah backs Syria's al-Assad as opposition forces intensify their offensive. Hezbollah's Secretary General Naim Qassem has pledged the Lebanese group will stand by the Syrian government amid an advance by terrorist groups trying to sow chaos in the country. They will not be able to achieve their goals despite what they have done in past days, and we as Hezbollah will be by Syria's side in thwarting the goals of this aggression as much as we can, Qassem said on Thursday, adding that the aggression is sponsored by the U.S. and Israel. Of course it is. His comments came hours after Syrian opposition forces captured the strategic city of Hama, as we told you about. Qassem did not give details of how Hezbollah would support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, but said the Iran-aligned group would do what it could. So Hezbollah is currently observing a fragile U.S.-brokered ceasefire agreement with Israel, even though Israel is breaking that ceasefire left and right, after a year war that has brought much devastation to Lebanon's south in particular. Many of the group's leadership have been killed in Israeli attacks, while tens of thousands of Lebanese civilians have been driven from their homes. Civilians have also borne the brunt of Syria's 13-year-long war, which has been largely frozen since 2020. until HTS launched the new offensive from their strongholds last week. And then tells you about Aleppo there. More than 280,000 people have been displaced by the recent fighting, the UN World Food Program said in a post on the tweeters. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for an end to the fighting and said the escalating conflict in Syria is a result of a chronic collective failure of diplomacy. Guterres called for immediate humanitarian access to all civilians in need in Syria and a return to a UN-facilitated political process to end the bloodshed. Tens of thousands of civilians are at risk in a region already on fire, he said. Yeah, so it's just getting worse and worse. And just when you think it can't get any worse in Gaza, there's still more dead coming out of there. Israel, this is from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Oh, pardon me. I need a little sip of this. It's like liquid heaven. Israeli attacks on Gaza kill 48 Palestinians over 24 hours. Gaza's health ministry said yesterday that Israeli attacks killed 48 Palestinians, wounded over 200 over the previous 24-hour period as relentless strikes continued. Israeli strikes yesterday included a drone attack right outside the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, that poor hospital. In northern Gaza, the strike killed a 16-year-old Palestinian boy who was in a wheelchair. Hamas, y'all. The health ministry said the boy was killed while on his way to the radiology department. Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, the director of the hospital, told Drop Site News that 12 others, including medical staff, were wounded by the Israeli strike. Beit Lahia is one of the northern cities that's been under a total Israeli siege since early October as part of an ethnic cleansing campaign. The Israeli military said Thursday that 18,000 Palestinian civilians were evacuated from Beit Lahia, meaning they were forcibly displaced. The IDF has been demolishing all the buildings in the city to ensure civilians cannot return. Israeli strikes also targeted Gaza City, killing at least 25 Palestinians, according to Al Jazeera. And children were among the bodies pulled out of the rubble. Last night we felt what seemed like a massive earthquake. Four multi-story buildings were flattened by Israeli warplanes. Many were killed and injured. I suffered this injury in the head, Ashraf Hariz, a resident of Gaza City, told Al Jazeera. And that brings the death toll to 44,580 since last year, and the wounded almost 106,000. A group of American healthcare workers who volunteered in Gaza estimated in an open letter to President Biden in October that the U.S.-backed Israeli onslaught has killed at least 118,908 Palestinians, a total that includes indirect deaths caused by the Israeli siege. Dr. Feroze Sidwa, who led the letter, told antiwar.com in a recent interview that the estimate was the bare minimum they came up with by looking at the available data. And of course, that doesn't count all the disintegrated bodies that's in the rubble that they couldn't get to. So they're continuing their strikes in Lebanon as well. They entered 5 as ceasefire violations continue. And no one says anything about it in the West. Yesterday, an Israeli airstrike on southern Lebanon town of Ataron injured 5. I totally butchered that. Ataron injured 5 people. Lebanon's national news agency reported Israeli violations of the ceasefire continue. According to a tally from Turkey's Anadolu agency, there have been 137 Israeli ceasefire violations since the truce was supposed to go into effect last Wednesday. Earlier this week, the UN's peacekeeping force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, said there had been 100 Israeli violations. Israeli attacks since last Wednesday have killed at least 15 people. For their part, Hezbollah has only fired 2 rockets towards Israeli positions, which it did on Monday as a warning shot in response to the Israeli violations. Despite the constant Israeli fire, Secretary of State Antony Blinken claimed on Wednesday that the ceasefire was holding. How do you say that with a straight fucking face, dude? You can see it's not. The U.S. had given Israel a letter of assurance that it could strike Lebanon if it deemed the ceasefire was being violated, giving Israel significant freedom of action. Israeli officials have justified their strikes by claiming Hezbollah's presence and activity was a violation of the ceasefire, but under the deal, Hezbollah has 60 days to withdraw its fighters and heavy weapons north of the Litani River. During that time, Israeli forces are supposed to pull out of southern Lebanon, which means rules for thee, not for me, is what this is. As long as Big Daddy U.S. is backing us up, ceasefire, schmeesefire, we're still going to plug whoever the fuck we want to. And like we said, Big Daddy U.S. always taking care of their bitch. U.S. rejects amnesty report saying Israel commits genocide in Gaza. This motherfucker right there. Make this a little bigger. That's what she said. Can we do that? Let's work. Ooh, Jesus. That is too big. And that is what she said. Not to me. The U.S. on Thursday rejected Amnesty International's report that said there is conclusive evidence of Israel's genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. We agree with the conclusions of such a report. We have said previously and continue to find the allegations of genocide to be unfounded, State Department Deputy Spokesman and Muppet Show reject Vedant Patel told reporters. Patel acknowledged that the vital role of NGOs and human rights organizations like Amnesty International, but characterized their findings on genocide in Gaza as an opinion. He added that the findings by the rights groups do not change the U.S.'s continued concern about the humanitarian situation in Gaza as well as the effect on civilians. He urged all parties to work toward an agreement to end the war. Asked if the U.S. conducted a formal process to determine if Israel is committing genocide, Patel said, "There's no formal conclusion of the process, you silly beans." He didn't say that part. But he might have in the little ... Who knows? There continue to be a number of deliberative processes as it relates to the situations on the ground. Tools that we spend a lot of times like conventional arms transfer policy, things like the Leahy process. I wouldn't speak to those processes in detail, he said, with a hand up his ass. The Leahy process is a system the U.S. uses to ensure that foreign state forces do not grossly violate human rights before they receive U.S. help. Pressed about how the U.S. determined the genocide allegations to be unfounded, Patel said, "I'm not a lawyer, so can't speak to the definition of how that feeds into this. I'm not a lawyer. That's what I tell the cops. You know how fast you're going, I'm not a lawyer. What are you talking about? What are these numbers, man? What are you talking about?" London-based Amnesty said Thursday that it found sufficient basis to conclude that Israel had committed and is continuing to commit genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. It said it examines Israel's acts in Gaza closely and in their totality, taking into account their recurrence and simultaneous occurrence and both their immediate impact and their cumulative and mutually reinforcing consequences. Last month, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Bibi and his butt buddy Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the ICJ for its war on Gaza, and they can never go back to Chuck E. Cheese unless they bring a child that they're related to. Them's the rules. It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I need some crack rot on the spot. Oh, sorry, wrong show. Well, meanwhile, the crew of the USS George Washington tucking tail out of the Middle East after Yemen basically just told them to fuck off. So now they can't have any hooch. What? No hoochie? Alcohol banned for USS George Washington crew following sailor deaths. Dun, dun, dun. The crew of the carrier George Washington has been banned from drinking alcohol on or off base under a new set of liberty restrictions implemented in the wake of the deaths of 2 sailors following the ship's arrival in Japan. The updated rules, which applied to approximately 3,000 sailors assigned to the hulking ship, went into effect November 26. A spokesperson for the carrier told Stars and Stripes. The restrictions are not intended to be permanent. Also, under the regulations, which were implemented 4 days after the ship pulled into Yokosuka Naval Base on November 22nd, sailors under the age of 20 will not be allowed to take overnight liberty, Stripes reported. Since October, restrictions put in place beyond the temporary order have prohibited Japan-based sailors from visiting or drinking alcohol in off-base businesses between midnight and 5 a.m. The wake of two George Washington sailors' deaths in separate incidents after the ship pulled into port. Petty Officer Second Class Kyler Burnett Condon and Seaman Dimitri Isaac Morales died within days of the ship's return to the U.S. 7th Fleet. Condon was found unresponsive November 22nd in an on-base hotel room. On-base? They have on-base? Oh, I guess for relatives, and was pronounced dead at the scene. 3 days later, Morales was discovered unresponsive off base in Yokosuka and subsequently pronounced dead by local authorities. The Naval Criminal Investigation Service, the NCIS, you may have seen that show on the Magic Picture Box all the old people are talking about, is investigating the deaths alongside Japanese law enforcement, Stripes reported. The enhanced restrictions, meanwhile, will remain in place as officials monitor activities in town and communicate any changes to the policy, the spokesperson said. The GW, which includes the first F-35C Lightning II squadron to join forward deployed naval forces in Japan, is now the Navy's only forward deployed carrier. The ship replaced the carrier Ronald Reagan in Japan, so the latter could undergo maintenance work in Bremerton, Washington.
Well, that Ronald Reagan, he needed some work anyway, and I hope he got the work that he's got done.
Wait, what happened? What's going on here? Hang on just a second. We still on the air? We still doing things? Can you guys see me on YouTube? You guys okay? Because it says some sort of error thing's going on. All right. Anyway, so we'll get back to this. Okay. All right, cool. Because I was getting some weird thing in here, some error message inside, because I have this little YouTube like studio thing, and yeah. It was wild. It said it was showing me something I'd never seen before. And as a tech person, you want to make sure you know all the little errors and stuff like that. So anyway, I guess we're okay for now. We'll see. So a little bit of excitement off the coast of Cali yesterday, and some people were talking about this. The 7.0 earthquake off Northern California prompts a brief tsunami warning. So yeah. This is one of the stores that got shaken up by the cars. Shake it up. Boo. Ooh, ooh, shake it up. Boo, doo, 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 doo. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake shook a large area of Northern California yesterday, knocking items off grocery store shelves, sending children scrambling under desks, and prompting a brief tsunami warning for 5.3 million people along the U.S. West Coast. Shake, 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 Sonora, shake your body right. Work, 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 Sonora, work it all the time. The quake struck at 10:44 a.m. west of Ferndale. I think that was a TV show too. I think I had I can't remember his name, but the guy with the mustache. A small city in coastal Humboldt County, about 130 miles from the Oregon border. According to the USGS, it was felt as far south as San Francisco, some 270 miles away, where residents described a rolling motion for several seconds. Probably thought they were on ecstasy. It was followed by multiple smaller aftershocks. There were no immediate reports of major damage or injuries from the quake, which was the most powerful temblor to hit California since a magnitude 7.1 quake hit Ridgecrest in 2019. The tsunami warning was in effect for roughly an hour, issued shortly after Thursday's quake struck. It covered nearly 500 miles of coastline from the edge of California's Monterey Bay north into Oregon. It was a strong quake. Our building shook. We're fine, but I have a mess to clean up right now, said Julie Kreitzner, owner of Golden Gate Mercantile. See Gate, G-A-I-T, you see what they did there? A store packed with food, wares, and souvenirs. That is the main attraction in Ferndale. What's up? Yeah. Remember that show, Sunny? It was like Sunny in Ferndale or something, or Morning in Ferndale. It was I won't know it till next time. The region known for its redwood forest, scenic mountains, and the three-county Emerald Triangle's legendary marijuana crop. Oh, that's right. Gotta save the crop. Was struck by a magnitude 6.4 quake in 2022 that left thousands of people without power and water. The northwest corner of California is the most seismically active part of the state because it's where three tectonic plates meet. Seismologist Lucy Jones said on the social media platform Blue Sky. Everybody loves that blue sky. Shortly after the quake, phones in North Carolina buzzed with a tsunami warning from the National Weather Service that said a series of powerful waves and strong currents may impact coasts near you. You are in danger. Get away from the coastal waters. Move to high ground or inland now. Keep away from the coast until local officials say it's safe to return. Numerous cities urged people to evacuate to higher ground as precaution. In Santa Cruz, authorities cleared the main beach, taping off entrances with police tape. Aerial footage showed cars bumper to bumper heading to higher ground on California's Highway 1 and 92 in the Half Moon Bay area south of San Francisco. Let's see. White House spokesperson Jeremy Edwards said President Joe Biden was briefed on the earthquake and that FEMA officials are in touch with their state and local counterparts in California and Oregon. Governor Gavin Newsom said he signed off on a state of emergency declaration to quickly move state resources to impacted areas along the coast. State officials were concerned about damages in the northern part of the state. Crews in Eureka. I've been to Eureka. It's a nice little town, the biggest city in the region. We're assessing if there was any damage. Eureka Mayor Kim Burgle, who works at a middle school. The mayor works at a middle school, said lights were swaying and everyone got under desks. I love it. That's the town. Your mayor also works at the middle school. The kids were so great and terrified. It seemed to go back and forth for quite a long time. Some children asked, can I call my mom? Oh, that's terrible. So this quake was a strike slip type of temblor that shifts more horizontally and is less prone to cause tsunamis, unlike the more vertical types. So basically, it was like a horizontal. I guess it was kind of like at an angle kind of thing. Whereas if it's, it's one of those things where it's, curling under and it goes bang like that. That's the one that shoots all the water up in the thing and makes the waves and the stuff. So glad nobody was hurt there. They talk about taking away our guns down here in the U.S. of A. But what about our folks up north in Canada? This is from Dave DeCamp back at antiwar.com. Canadian government bans more types of guns, wants to send them to Ukraine. Uh-oh. Watch out, Canadians. The Canadian government announced yesterday it was prohibiting its citizens from owning another 324 types of firearms and is working to send them to Ukraine. As part of its comprehensive approach on December 5th, 2024, that was yesterday, the government announced the prohibition of more military-style, assault-style firearms, Canada's Public Safety Department said in a press release. Amendments to the classification regulations have resulted in the prohibition of 104 families of firearms encompassing 324 unique makes and models. Ooh. Canadians who own the newly banned guns have an amnesty until October 30th, 2025, and during that time, the government will implement a buyback program. The old classic buyback. Sell guns to the government, and they will send them to Ukraine. That's the scam, right? Canadian Defense Minister Bill Blair said the government is in talks with Ukraine about sending them the firearms. We've been working very closely with our friends in Ukraine to ensure that weapons that were intended to be used in combat could be made available to them. The Department of National Defense will begin working with the Canadian companies that have weapons that Ukraine needs and which are already eligible for the assault-style firearm compensation program in order to get these weapons out of Canada and into the hands of the Ukrainians, Blair added. Historically, Ukraine has had one of the largest black markets for weapons, and there have been very little oversight when it comes to Western military aid to the country. No shit, Sherlock. The Pentagon's Inspector General said in a report last year that some Western-provided weapons had been stolen by criminals, volunteer fighters, and arms traffickers. Wait a minute. I am not shocked. I must not be near electricity because I am not shocked. We got a 3 for in the Bahamas. If you like the Bahamas. You know what I like? I like coffee. It's delicious. But coffee is also a diuretic, so if you're a little loose in the bowels, don't be drinking coffee before you got to go somewhere because, SpaghettiOs. Meanwhile, in Bahamas, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I want to take you. Bahamian police chief resigns after U.S. indicts officers in a massive drug trafficking case. The Bahamas police commissioner has resigned after a sergeant and 2 officers were recently indicted in the U.S. in what federal authorities describe as a case of massive drug trafficking. Dun, 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 dun. The Bahamas Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis announced on Wednesday that Clayton Fernander was stepping down, noting that he faces no charges in the case, but that the police department needs a change. We are taking important steps to restore trust and accountability, Davis told Parliament, adding that there will be more leadership changes in upcoming days. The resignation comes after a police sergeant, a senior police officer, and a Royal Bahamas Defense Force officer and several other suspects were indicted in the U.S. Late last month. The U.S. Justice Department called the case a massive cocaine importation conspiracy enabled by corrupt Bahamian government officials, including high-ranking members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. I wonder if they brought him in on those Royal Bahamas cruise ships. Ooh, sad. The department noted that since May 2021, drug traffickers have smuggled tons of cocaine through the Bahamas bound for the U.S. with the help of corrupt local officials who controlled airports and disclosed information about U.S. Coast Guard movements. The bribes that officials were promised or given ranged from $10,000 to $2 million to help with the trafficking, including the movement of 1,320 pounds of cocaine through the Bahamas' main international airport, according to the indictment. The Bahamas has not yet appointed a new police commissioner. On Monday, Fernander said he was interviewing officials to determine when the alleged drug trafficking began and said he supported a government proposal for independent civilian oversight of the police department. Okay. Whoa, that's a bit much. Meanwhile, the Bahamas suspends the parliament after a lawmaker throws symbolic mace out the window, right? So here's this guy. Wait a minute, let me see here. So you got this guy. You really need this sound. So there he goes. He's got this mace, and he's just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to throw it out the window. And they're like, why? No, it's the sacred mace. It was given to us by Thor of Ragnarok. Anyway, that was a bit much to go through for that bit. The Bahamas legislature was forced to suspend its session on Wednesday after a heated debate about a police corruption scandal escalated, with one opposition lawmaker grabbing the symbolic parliamentary mace and throwing it out the window. Parliament member Shenandoah Cartwright, frustrated after Speaker Patricia DeVoe did not let him speak, was seen rushing up where she was seated, grabbing the parliamentary mace, a heavy ceremonial staff, off the bench, and then tossing it out a nearby window. "Get him!" DeVoe then yelled, with the incident recorded on a government broadcast. I wish it'd be like those 1960s bad guys where they go, "Seize them! Seize them!" You know, and then the henchmen go after him. So she should have said that. Seize him. Seize him! He, alongside several ally lawmakers, were forced out of the building by police. The move harks back to 1965 when the leader of the opposition threw the mace out of a window in a push for political change, an event that became known as Black Tuesday, which was also that was my porn name back in the 70s. It comes after U.S. federal prosecutors charged several high-ranking Bahamian police officials with facilitating the flow of cocaine into the U.S. in exchange for the bribes. Outside Parliament, dozens of protesters gathered shouting, "Police are criminals." Good for you. They also are rejecting the Trump proposal to take in deported third country migrants. So I guess Trump said, "Yeah, we'll let all the Bahamas, we'll let all those people have them." And they're like, "Excuse me, damn it, come on." Yeah, he's looking rough. Look at him, man. Look at his face, right? And I'm sorry, that ear still doesn't look like it got shot at. See, I don't think so. Yeah. So let's get back to this. The Bahamas says it's rejected a proposal from the transition team of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to take in migrants from other countries who may be deported by the incoming administration. In a statement yesterday, the office of Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis said the scheme to have the Bahamas accept deportation flights was reviewed and firmly rejected. The Bahamas simply does not have the resources to accommodate such a request, Davis's office said. Since the Prime Minister's rejection of this proposal, there has been no further engagement or discussions with the Trump transition team or any other entity regarding this matter. The government of the Bahamas remains committed in its position. Trump, who won last month's U.S. presidential election, will take office on January 20th, has promised to carry out the largest deportation operation in the country's history. The proposed effort has spurred condemnation from rights advocates and raised questions about the feasibility of removing millions of undocumented immigrants from the country. The Department of Homeland Security estimates 11 million unauthorized people lived in the U.S. as of 2022. The Bahamas census for the same year shows the country has less than 400,000 people total. Trump's deportation plans will also likely test the limits of his power as president, as any mass deportation would involve legal challenges and cooperation with foreign governments. Citing three unnamed sources, NBC News reported that Trump's team was preparing a list of countries that it could send migrants to should their home countries not agree to take them back. This list included the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, Panama, and Grenada, the sources told the U.S. news outlet. During Trump's first term as president, the U.S. signed a deal with Guatemala, forcing asylum seekers who transited through the Central American country on their way to the U.S.-Mexico border to first apply for protection there. The so-called Safe Third Country Agreement allowed the Trump administration to deport people from third countries, such as Honduras and El Salvador, to Guatemala. It remains unclear whether any countries will agree to take in deported third country migrants and asylum seekers when Trump takes office again in January. Last month, the ACLU of Southern California sued the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to obtain records revealing how the agency's deportation flights could be expanded to carry out a mass deportation program. Little is known about how President-elect Trump will carry out his mass deportation agenda, but what we do know is that this proposal has already instilled fear among immigrant communities. That's according to Eva Bitrin, Director of Immigrants' Rights at the ACLU chapter. The public has a right to know how its taxpayer dollars could be used to fund deportation flights that would tear apart not only families, but also our communities. And he's going to impose these 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and neither one of those countries are having that. Meanwhile, in Mexico, they're seeking a deal with Trump to avoid deported migrants from other countries. So that's the new president lady there, Claudia Sheinbaum. Mexico is seeking an agreement with Trump to ensure it does not receive deportees from third countries in case of large-scale deportations of migrants from the U.S., President Claudia Sheinbaum said yesterday. The Bahamas rejected taking third country deportees if Trump carries out his promised vast crackdown. We already told you about that. Trump's incoming Vice President J.D. Vance has floated the possibility of deporting 1 million people a year. The Trump transition team has discussed deporting migrants to places other than their home country, like we said, those Panama, Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas. Trump's border czar Tom Homan told Reuters that Mexico could be an option. Trump's team did not immediately respond to a request for comment on it. Mexico is looking to strike a deal with Trump. We hope to reach an agreement with the administration so that in case these deportations happen, they send people from other countries directly to their countries of origin, she said. She did not outright say that her government would refuse migrants from other countries. Trump could use the threat of slapping Mexico with tariffs to get the Latin American country to comply. And that's probably how that's going to happen. And probably the same thing with Canada, too. They're threatening them with these tariffs. So they're like, hey, we'll drop the tariffs, if you take these people. Wait. That was his right ear. That was the one that was hit, Kate. You should pay attention to my news reporting and not so much to your Canadian business. Yeah, it was his right ear that was hit. Yeah, so don't tell me my business, lady. So meanwhile, down south in Memphis, the Memphis rejects federal calls for police oversight after the Tyree Nichols probe. Officials in Memphis have pushed back against calls for greater oversight of the city's police force after a report by the U.S. Department of Justice found widespread and discriminatory use of force practices. In a news conference yesterday, Mayor Paul Young said that the city has been taking steps to address police abuses, but is skeptical of entering a binding agreement with the federal government known as a consent decree. We believe we can make more effective and meaningful change by working together with community input and independent national experts than with a bureaucratic, costly, and complicated federal government consent decree, Young said. The Justice Department released the investigation carried out by its Civil Rights Division on Wednesday. The 73-page report found that black people in Memphis are arrested or penalized for loitering and curfew violations at 13 times the rate for white people. It's also one of the most dangerous cities in the country, too. But damn, do they got some good ribs there. They got some really good ribs. Local law enforcement also cites or arrests black people for disorderly conduct at 3.6 times the rate for white people. Most notably, the investigation concluded that Memphis Police Department officers regularly escalate situations involving nonviolent offenses. MPD officers resort to force likely to cause pain or injury almost immediately in response to low-level nonviolent offenses, even when people are not aggressive, the report explained. But the report added that police officers accused of beating people in restraints or handcuffs face little accountability from supervisors. The Justice Department's investigation was initiated after a video emerged of Memphis police beating 29-year-old Tyree Nichols back in 2023. Nichols was pulled from his car during a traffic stop, and when he broke free and fled, 5 officers pursued him into a residential neighborhood where his mother lived. They pulled Nichols to the ground, hitting and kicking him while he called out to his mother for help. That beating is one of several instances of police abuse that have sparked nationwide protests and calls to address discrimination in the U.S. Policing and criminal justice system. In October, a federal jury convicted 3 police officers of charges related to the beating. An autopsy found Nichols died from repeated blows to the head. Black residents of the city and criminal justice activists say they had been expressing their frustration with police practices for years before the fatal beating of Nichols, but city officials have sought to walk a line between acknowledging the thorny issues around policing and committing to enforceable changes. Memphis City Attorney Tanara Gibson said in a letter to the Justice Department that the city is not ready to discuss potential reforms with the police department, stating that authorities need time to look through the findings. Gibson also suggested that the investigation had been rushed since it only took 17 months to complete, compared to an average of 2 to 3 years in almost every other instance. In a news conference yesterday, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark from the Justice Department Civil Rights Division called the probe comprehensive and exhaustive. The people of Memphis deserve a police department and city that protects their civil and constitutional rights, garners trust, and keeps them safe, Clark said. Yeah, and Memphis is very unsafe, too. A lot of corruption down there, too. So I know we were talking about this briefly on Wednesday. I can't remember who brought it up. About United Healthcare CEO that got shot in New York. So police are still hunting for the U.S. healthcare executive's mass killer. And let's see. I think there's a little video on this. So let me see here. Let's get this set up. And we'll listen to this.
A manhunt underway in New York after the chief executive of one of America's largest health insurance companies was fatally shot. Brian Thompson of United Healthcare gunned down early Wednesday outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan in what police officers say was a targeted attack.
The motive for this murder currently is unknown, but based on the evidence we have so far, it does appear that the victim was specifically targeted. But at this point, we do not know why. This does not appear to be a random act of violence.
It appears the suspect was lying in wait for several minutes. And as the victim was walking to the conference hotel, the suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds.
Brian Thompson was shot once in the back and at least once in his right calf. The New York Police Department is offering a $10,000 reward for information. They released images of the alleged suspect who was wearing a face mask at the time of the attack. Police believe the assailant fled into an alley after the shooting and then rode a bicycle up to Central Park, where they were last seen.
We were over here working in the University Club Hotel, and then we were outside and we heard some shots rang off, and then we ran over here and police were here in seconds.
United Healthcare was holding its annual investor conference in New York on Wednesday. While the company had knowledge of threats to high-level executives, the chief executive was not among those named. However, Brian Thompson's widow told U.S. media threats had been made to her husband's life.
Yeah, so no, I don't want to see this again. So that's the nuts and bolts of what happened. So it's Brian Thompson. He was 50, shot around 6:45 a.m. as he walked alone to the New York Hilton Midtown from a nearby hotel. The shooter appeared to be lying in wait, like they said. Many people passed the suspect, but he appeared to wait for his intended target. From watching the video, it does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly. Surveillance video shows someone emerging from behind a parked car, pointing a gun at Thompson's back, then firing multiple times from several feet away. The gunman continues firing, interrupted by a brief gun jam as Thompson stumbles forward and falls to the sidewalk. He then walks past Thompson and out of the frame. So apparently this person had some knowledge of firearms. Thompson was shot at least once in the back and once in the calf. So Thompson's wife, Paulette Thompson, told NBC News that he told her there were some people that had been threatening him. She didn't have details, but suggested the threats may have involved issues with insurance coverage, right? So, and so what this has done, as a lot of the speculation is that some people, that this may have been just someone who was irate about the bill that they had to pay for their health care, you know. So this is according to Market Watch. United Healthcare head Brian Thompson's killing shines light on health insurance denial rates, right? But that may be this one of the motives that this person had, that they were denied coverage. In July, more than 150 protesters gathered outside of the headquarters of United Health Group in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Their complaint, the number of claims the health insurers had denied. It's an issue of great frustration among the insured, exacerbated by a lack of transparency among insurance companies that don't publicly disclose their denial rates and have few requirements to do so under government regulations. While the motive behind the killing of Brian Thompson, the top executive at United Healthcare, remains unknown, one theory emerged based on words found on shell casings found at the scene of his shooting. According to police, bullets were marked with the words deny, defend, and depose. This has led to speculation in the media that the words were a reference to a 2010 book, Delay, Deny, Defend, Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It, which focused on insurance companies' efforts to avoid paying health insurance claims. The protest outside United Health's headquarters this summer, in which 11 people were arrested, was an effort to raise awareness about the issue. United Health Group's profiteering by denying care is a disgrace, leaving people across Minnesota and all of the United States without the care they desperately need, the People's Action Institute, which organized the rally, wrote in an April letter to United Health Chief Executive Andrew Whitty. At the time, United Health said in a statement that its executives had met with the protesters and resolved the member-specific concerns raised by this group and remain open to a constructive dialogue about ensuring access to high-quality, affordable care. Following Thompson's killing, the People's Action Institute said the shooting was a shocking act and that they advocated for a productive, nonviolent, democratic way to create change on this platform. We know there's a crisis of gun violence in America. There's also a crisis of denials of care by private health insurance corporations, including United Health, the statement read. Both of these crises must end. Our political leaders must act on both. The anger is not just among activist groups, however. A review of comments posted on Thompson's LinkedIn page revealed how widespread the frustration over claim denials is. I have stage 4 metastatic lung cancer. We've just left UHC because of all the denials for my meds. Every month there's a different reason for the denial. As of today, we are well over our max out of pocket for the year, with having spent well over $20,000, wrote Lisa Gillespie in response to a post from Thompson discussing making health care more affordable. A message left with representatives for United Health wasn't immediately returned. One point of frustration stems from how little clarity there is on the number of claims health insurers deny, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. While the passage of the Affordable Care Act stipulated that insurers disclose how often they deny claims, they're the Affordable Care Act, that's so cute, the requirement has never been implemented. That has left behind a patchwork of imprecise and incomplete data. There are indications that denial of health insurance claims is generally on the rise. Experian Health recently released reports showing that 3 out of every 4 healthcare providers had experienced a rise in the number of claims denied by payers between 2022 and 2024. In the aftermath of Thompson's shooting, a chart purporting to show that United Health led the way in claim denials among major insurers went viral on social media. The underlying data only related to programs the insurer offered through the Affordable Care Act exchanges in just 2 states. Meanwhile, United Health has seen its revenues rise in recent years, driven largely by increases in insurance premiums. In the first 9 months of 2024, the United Health reported $8.66 billion in net profit on $299 billion of revenue. Security filings show much of the revenue, $232 billion, came from insurance premiums. That is over $100 billion more in revenue than the company reported in the same period just 4 years ago, when it generated $192 billion, according to securities filings. United Health is the nation's 14th largest company with a market capitalization of $544 billion, according to companiesmarketcap.com. If you believe that rag, the company does not disclose much data about insurance claims in its public financial filings, but says that about 90% of claims related to medical care services are settled within 90 days from the date of service, and substantially all are settled within 12 months. Crazy time, right? And so it's also the shootings kind of making the healthcare think twice about risk after this guy got capped. Sorry, I'm a little uncomfortable in this chair today for some reason. I'm all bouncy. Oops, I didn't want to do that. So the healthcare insurance companies are reassessing the risks for their top executives after the murder of CEO Brian Thompson of United Healthcare on Wednesday in Manhattan, with both United Health and rival CVS Health removing photos of their leadership teams from their websites after the shooting. United Healthcare, part of the United Health Group, is the biggest U.S. insurer. CVS operates Aetna, another top insurer. Thompson was killed in an attack police called targeted as he was about to enter the Hilton Hotel for the company's annual investor conference. So we told you the gunman is at large. Robert D'Amico, founder of Sierra One Consulting, who previously worked with the FBI, said the removal of photos showed these companies are hearing what experts like me have been saying about how easy it is to identify and then find their executives. United Health took down Thompson's and other executives' photos from its website on Wednesday. A spokesperson did not respond to a query asking what the motivation was. CVS removed pictures of all its top executives on Thursday. The company declined to comment. D'Amico and a second security expert who said they are constantly assessing risk for top executives based on news events or the business their companies conduct. Expect companies to ramp up physical security for executives. Yep, there you go. Bodyguards for CEOs. The healthcare sector in the last 18 months has explored new security measures as they encountered increasing conflict and the potential for violent crime. It's according to Glenn Kucera, president of Enhanced Protection Services at security firm Allied Universal. I used to work for them. They were Allied Barton at the time. Before the shooting, most assessment efforts were conducted for medical practices and other healthcare providers, which have faced increasing hostility from the public since the COVID-19 pandemic. Rising demand for protection in hospitals and healthcare facilities is in line with most customer-facing industries, said Garrett Sievold, Chief Content and Communications Officer at the International Security League. Ligue, is that supposed to be league? Come on, spell it right there, Garrett. Assessing risk involves searching social media and trying to determine whether threats have been made, circumstances which have not been made public regarding Thompson, Kucera said. So like we said, his wife, Paulette, they said they've been receiving threats related to his job and related to coverage, but said she didn't know all the details. D'Amico said he expects corporate boards of directors to reassess their security plans for executives. That would include asking for assessments on how big a security detail to deploy while weighing the cost. Someone like billionaire Elon Musk has 20 people around them every day, he said. He made a crack on the tweeters. He said whoever's saying that capping CEOs is based. And then they had that meme from Starship Troopers where he's putting his hand on the bug and he goes, "It's scared. It's scared." So the CEOs are like, "Yep, time to cowboy up. Better pack a fire iron." It seems like. He pointed angry social media posts which appeared to show people verbally attacking health insurance companies and employees in the immediate aftermath of Thompson's murder. I think the healthcare companies are going to see that and realize that there's more hate out there for them and their executives. Yeah, you think? Consumer frustration with health insurance in the U.S. has been high for years and led to the failed 2010 Affordable Care Act, which they tried to mandate. If you didn't have health insurance, they would charge you a fee. The government would charge you a fee. That's how genius a move that was. It was a Republican fucking plan too. Of course it was going to suck. It's not known whether Thompson's job played any role in his death, but the shooting has brought attention to increasing tension with the healthcare industry. Cigna, Elevance, Centene, and Molina did not respond to requests for comment about whether they were making any security changes now or had done so. Health insurers do not provide details on their spending on security for executives in financial regulatory filings. So, yeah. So, there it is. They're going to be, you know, you're going to see him Tony Stark style with all these fucking bodyguards. Finally, in the news block, the little delay for NASA and getting back to the moon. NASA says moon mission is further delayed, but hopes to land astronauts before China does. China's going to get there before we do. We never went to the moon, by the way. You know that's true, right? We never went. That was all Stanley Kubrick. I just want to light a little fire, see if anybody's listening in the chat. NASA announced yesterday that the next Artemis mission, which would send 4 astronauts on a flight around the moon, will be delayed until 2026, yet another postponement in a program that's already years behind schedule and billions of dollars over budget. In January, NASA said it would launch the Artemis II mission in September 2025 instead of late 24. Now the space agency says it is targeting a launch in April 2026 to allow more time to address issues with its next-generation Orion space capsule. The problems were detected during the uncrewed Artemis test flight in 2022. The delay also pushes back the Artemis III mission, which aims to land astronauts near the moon's south pole, instead of launching in September 2026. That mission is planned for mid-2027. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said the adjusted timeline should still keep the U.S. on track to return astronauts to the moon before China puts its own astronauts on the lunar surface. Nelson said the mid-2027 goal will be well ahead of the Chinese government's announced intention of landing Chinese astronauts on the moon by 2030. But see, they say 2030, but they're probably just going to, they're probably going to do it before 2030. Surprise! China's interest in lunar exploration has ignited a kind of new space race, with some U.S. experts and officials increasingly concerned that if China reaches the lunar surface before the U.S., there could be competition over resources in space, including valuable water ice that is thought to be locked up in permanently shadowed craters at the lunar south pole. There's also that hydrogen-3 up there, too. That's good for fuel for space rockets. Water on the moon, the thinking goes, could be used to make rocket fuel to propel missions deeper into space. Yeah, the water, too. It is vital for us to land on the South Pole so that we do not cede portions of that lunar South Pole to the Chinese, Nelson said. NASA officials attributed the need to delay the Artemis missions to flaws in the heat shield. Oh, boy, it's always the heat shield. On the Orion spacecraft that they detected during the capsule's uncrewed flight. They noticed, for instance, that the heat shield was worn down in places and that a buildup of internal pressure caused parts of the outer layer to crack and shed, and as NASA Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy said, Orion's heat shield covers the bottom of the capsule and plays a crucial role in protecting the spacecraft and potential astronauts on board from the extreme temperatures of re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Extensive testing revealed that the heat shield likely eroded because of the specific way that the Orion capsule returned to Earth. The spacecraft was designed to execute what is known as a skip entry, which involves ducking in and out of the atmosphere, dissipate energy, and slow the vehicle down. Slow your Mustang down. Whatever you said. Yeah, so if you're looking for moon news, sorry, unless, but they always have those secret missions that go to the moon too. So, there's hope against hope there, folks. Meanwhile, censorship around the world never ends, and this time it's in Afghanistan, and shutting down a TV station. Yeah, because they're doing that too.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, Afghan TV station shut for working with exiled media. 6 detained. Dun, dun, dun. The Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, wow, that's a title, the PVPV, accused people working within Arezzo TV of providing content to Afghan media based outside the country, which have been heavily restricted and criticized by the Taliban authorities. Some people were using the name of Arezzo TV to carry out actions that were contrary to Islamic values and national traditions, the PVPV said in a statement announcing the station's closure. It became clear that some people had used the name and building of Arezzo TV as well as their position in the media outlet to pay temporary workers to dub vulgar serials and programs that were against Islamic and Afghan principles and traditions with the financial support of exiled media outlets outside the country, it said. 2 employees with Arezzo told AFP on condition of anonymity that 6 people were arrested when the office was raided. Around 8 Taliban officials, including one who was armed, entered the Kabul office mid-morning on Wednesday and separated men from women before taking their phones and information, one source said. The office is sealed and they asked us to wait for further orders. Either the office will be reopened again or shut down, he said. A second Arezzo TV employee said the 6 detained employees were still in custody and under investigation by PVPV. As of Thursday afternoon, Arezzo TV was not broadcasting in Kabul, AFP journalists said. The Afghanistan Journalists Center, a press freedom group, said Taliban intelligence officers and morality police, those morality police, had raided the office, citing an employee saying the staff were mistreated and that their phones and computers were confiscated. The channel, founded in 2006 in northern Mazar-e-Sharif city, produces news as well as wildlife documentaries and Islamic series dubbed from Turkish with a staff of some 70 people in Kabul, FJC said. Afghanistan's media sector has dramatically shrunk under 3 years of Taliban government, while international monitors have criticized Kabul's new rules for allegedly trampling reporters' rights. Research by the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan and its Geneva-based Human Rights Office said journalists and media outlets operate under an environment of censorship and tight restrictions. Government spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid has said there are no restrictions on journalists as long as they consider the national interest and Islamic values and avoid spreading rumors. Yes, no restrictions, none at all, none whatsoever. The UK is those people in the UK, they're so gullible. UK media duped by fake female North Korean soldiers in Russia photo. Daily Mail, there they are. Hi, ladies, how are you? The Daily Mail has had to retract a story which falsely claimed to provide evidence that female North Korean soldiers are assisting Russia in the Ukraine conflict. The image upon which the report was based turned out to be doctored. Is it this one right here? Look at those little cutie pies. Who are they hurting? Little cutie pies. The story, originally published by the British tabloid on Wednesday, claimed that North Korea leader Kim Jong-un had sent these broads to fight as cannon fodder for Russian President Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. The allegation was based on a picture of 2 women in uniforms, which the newspaper claimed was taken in Zelenogorsk, a large city in the northwest of Kursk region. The women were identified as sisters Wei and Lin. The fake image is apparently based on a still from a video published last year by a Donetsk-linked channel featuring twin sisters who tell a camera operator that they are 25 years old and come from the city of Makayevka. Both claim to have been serving in armed forces since 2014, initially as members of the Donetsk militia. In a correction, the Daily Mail said later in the day that the fabricated photograph had been provided to it by a trusted freelance reporter. I don't think they're trusted that much now, and apologized for confusion caused by its erroneous reporting. Kiev and its Western backers have been claiming for weeks that North Korean troops are helping Russia in Kursk region. U.S. sources told the media that the alleged deployment, which Moscow and Pyongyang have neither confirmed nor denied, justified granting permission for Ukraine to use long-range missiles donated by the West for strikes deep inside Russia. Ukrainian troops interviewed recently by the BBC have cast doubt on the claims that North Korean troops are present on the battlefield. I haven't seen or heard anything about Koreans, alive or dead, one of the soldiers said. It's very difficult to find a Korean in the dark Kursk forest, especially if he's not here. Yeah, it's hard to find somebody who's not there. Another one noted sarcastically, paraphrasing an expression from a popular Soviet TV series. So yeah, it's very difficult to find a Korean in the dark Kursk forest, especially if he's not there. Snarkiness. I love me some snarky. So good. Snarky is very delicious. So of course the FBI, they gotta help their Zionist pals. FBI raids the home of Palestinian American over campus graffiti during Gaza protest. More than 80 student and faculty groups from across the country, including pro-Palestine organizations on U.S. campuses, are urging authorities in a letter sent on Tuesday to investigate what led the FBI to raid the home of 2 Gaza protest leaders last month. 2 Palestinian American sisters, who are also students at George Mason University in Virginia, had their home raided by the FBI. The house was searched for 6 hours and their electronic devices were seized, according to a new report by The Intercept on Tuesday. More than a dozen police officers, as well as a member of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, arrived at the family home in Springfield, Virginia, a suburb of D.C., in the early morning hours of November 7th and broke down the door. They forced the family to sit in the living room as the house was searched. Officers refused to show the family a search warrant, but told them the investigation concerned spray-painted graffiti on the GMU campus related to a protest against Israel's war on Gaza. At the time, the university had publicized a $2,000 reward for information on any suspects. While they were not arrested during the raid, one of the 2 sisters in the home is the current co-president of the Students for Justice in Palestine chapter at GMU. The other is a former president, The Intercept reported. They were both banned from GMU in September, shortly after the graffiti incident, with police citing criminal trespass. The sisters have not been able to continue their education. The SJP's chapter has also since been suspended. In addition to a thorough investigation of how they became targets, Tuesday's letter from ally organizations and faculty demanded the trespass orders be revoked and that their devices in SJP be reinstated. The letter also indicated that the raid was an overreach. Do universities such as GMU routinely send phalanxes of police officers in military fatigues and armored vehicles and carrying assault rifles to break down the front door and raid the homes of students during the pre-dawn hours over an allegation of spray painting, the letter reads. The incident in Virginia is the latest in a wave of crackdowns on pro-Palestine protesters across the U.S. In October, a University of Pennsylvania student's home was also raided. Other academic institutions have suspended students or barred them from the university for good. The attorney for the family in the GMU case described the raid as an authoritarian overreach. And it was. It's exactly what it is, right? And that's why we have to keep calling out this kind of stuff. We have to keep reminding people that this kind of censorship is happening through our own government agencies, right? Cracking down on free speech on these campuses like this, And now they're trying to ban children from being on social media, period, in Australia. So it's not just it's just not the immediate West. And, it's other things going on too. So, Tom Cotton is a real piece of work in the U.S. Senate. And he has said and proposed some of the dumbest shit one can imagine. Yet this asshole still gets reelected. I still don't understand. But so now a Republican U.S. Senator introduces a bill to ban federal use of the phrase West Bank. There he is. There's the fucking genius right there in his dad's suit. A key Republican ally of President-elect Donald Trump introduced legislation yesterday in the Senate that, if enacted, would prohibit the federal government from using, quote, West Bank, quote, to refer to the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territory, Anadolu Agency reports. Senator Tom Cotton's legislation, that old sumbitch, would mandate the federal government refer to the territory as Judea or Samaria, Israel's preferred name. Cotton, who is the number 3 Republican in the Senate after reportedly being considered by Trump for CIA director or Pentagon chief, Jesus Christ, said the change would require the use of historically accurate terminology. Yeah, he wants to be historically accurate, right? Jewish people's legal and historic rights to Judea and Samaria go back thousands of years. The U.S. should stop using the politically charged term West Bank to refer to the biblical heartland of Israel, Cotton said with a Christian cock in his mouth. Representative Claudia Tenney introduced the act in the Republican-controlled House of Representatives in March, but it stalled after being referred to the Foreign Affairs Committee. She said in a statement distributed by Cotton's office that the bill reaffirms Israel's rightful claim to its territory. I remain committed to defending the integrity of the Jewish state and fully supporting Israel's sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. Praise Jesus, said Tenney. She didn't say praise Jesus, but she probably did. Israel occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem in 1967. And has since proceeded to erect thousands of Jewish-only settlements in the territories considered illegal under international law while evicting Palestinians from their homes. The International Court of Justice issued a landmark opinion in July that declared Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestinian land illegal and demanded the evacuation of all existing settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Let's call it Judea, Samaria, in the name of Jesus. That's right. Whether you like Jesus or not, you should probably despise Tom Cotton because he's Tom Cotton's kind of a piece of shit. Sorry, not sorry, sorry, not sorry. Meanwhile, in Guinea, a journalist was abducted amid a media crackdown. An investigative journalist was abducted by men in security forces uniforms in Guinea's capital. His wife and his lawyers told reporters Wednesday as the military regime continues to tighten its grip on the independent media. Habib Marouane Kamara, the editor-in-chief of the online investigative outlet L'Revelator224.com, was headed to meet with a businessman and a friend in Conakry on Tuesday evening. His wife, Mariama Lamarana Diallo, told reporters Wednesday in the city. Diallo said that, according to the friend who was with her husband, they were stopped by men wearing security force uniforms in a pickup. The policeman broke the rear windshield and took Kamara out of the vehicle by force, the friend said, an account which was corroborated to the AP by a witness who asked not to be named for fear of repercussions. The men beat Kamara with batons until he fainted and then picked him up and threw him in their truck and drove off, Diallo said. Kamara's friend was also forced into the police vehicle, but was then released and has gone into hiding. Kamara's wife and his lawyer, Salafu Bavogu, said they have not heard from Kamara since yesterday. I am speechless, Diallo said before breaking into tears. Guinea has been led by a military regime since soldiers in the West African nation ousted President Alpha Conde in 2021. The West African regional bloc known as ECOWAS has pushed for a return to civilian rule, and elections are scheduled for 2025. Earlier this year, the military authorities dissolved dozens of political parties and placed 2 major opposition ones under observation. The transitional government has yet to announce a date for elections. Guinea is one of a growing number of West African countries, including Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, where the military has taken power and delayed a return to civilian rule. Earlier this year, the military junta in Burkina Faso extended its transition term by 5 years. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, who leads Guinea, overran the president 3 years ago, saying he was preventing the country from slipping into chaos and chastising the previous government for broken promises. However, some critics have found Doumbouya no better than his predecessor. Gee, that's funny how that works. In February, the military leader dissolved the government without explanation, saying a new one would be appointed. Doumbouya has rebuffed attempts by the West and other developed countries to intervene in Africa's political challenges, saying Africans are exhausted by the categorizations with which everyone wants to box us in. Since coming to power, the military junta has been tightening its grip on the independent media. According to rights organizations, social networks and private radio stations have been cut off. Information sites have been interrupted or suspended for several months without explanation, and journalists have faced attacks and arrests. Despite media pluralism, journalists and the media faced obstruction and attacks that have become dangerously commonplace, Reporters Without Frontiers said in a statement earlier this year. So we have to keep an eye on all the fuckery around the world when it comes to press freedoms, when it comes to our freedoms, when it comes to protesting, whether we're allowed to do that or not. Fuck that being allowed shit. We should just be doing things and not worried about whether we're allowed to do it or not, because we're the people, right? And we're supposed to be taking this shit back. Finally, today, a little bit of good news. I know I told you about, I always like this archaeological stuff when they find like all this cool stuff. Because I'm always curious about the real history of humanity and, how we came to be, how we became a society, how did we become so, batshit crazy, that kind of thing, So, in Turkey, a 4,400-year-old jade cylinder seal was unearthed. And that's when Zool came back, from Ghostbusters. The Keymaster and the Gatekeeper. Archaeologists have unearthed a rare 4,400-year-old jade cylinder seal at Sietemur Mound, an ancient site in Kütahya in western Turkey, Anadolu agent reports. And there's all kinds of cool sites in Turkey, too. I think one of the oldest sites, I think around 17,000 BC or something like that, they found there. The seal, dating back to the early Bronze Age 2, Electric Boogaloo, was found during excavations led by Dr. Sevgi Gurdal, head of the Kütahya Museum. Made from the precious stone, the seal is the oldest of its kind found in the region. It offers crucial insights into ancient trade routes and cultural interactions. The jade is believed to originate from the Hermansic area located between Kütahya and Bursa, revealing potential links between ancient Anatolian cultures and broader trade networks. Cylinder seals originating in Mesopotamia around 4000 BCE, before the Common Era, spread to Anatolia, marking the discovery as a significant addition to the understanding of early commercial and cultural connections in the region. And y'all know me, I want me some Anunnaki. When they going to find them Anunnakis? I won't see them. When them Anunnakis going to show up? That's what I want. Come take us away like Calgon, right? That's it for all the news stuff for today, folks. I believe the usual suspects are on tonight. Willie, I think, is going to have a show on tonight. He hasn't said so yet, but he's got one, of course, Around the World, D and Friends. Our buddy Kevin here coming up top of the hour, around 2 p.m. Eastern. I think he's going to have Black Bear News as usual to get your weekend started. And, of course, tomorrow night, this asshole is going to be here. That's crazy guy telling people to shut the hell up. It's a secret show. Talking about nutty stuff, cartoons. Trying to take your mind off of things. That's going to be tomorrow night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time, if you're into that sort of thing, And I know you are, you naughty, naughty little beasts. I think that's it for everything. Kate says, these are good stories that you're covering. With all my other activities, I am unable to even listen to the news, let alone read it. Yeah, so I appreciate that. That's very nice. Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to do a straight news here. I mean, sometimes I'll slip some commentary in there. I don't mean to, but sometimes you just can't help it. So, yeah, please, Kate, drop your mix of music for the weekend. You have the power to do it, so please do. you're always welcome to do that. You don't even have to ask. Just say, hey, look, here's my mix for the weekend. Because listen to Kate's radio show. She's got music for you too. So all kinds of things to inform you and entertain you over the weekend. So yeah, I might be doing a gaming stream tomorrow with the bus. There's a bus simulator game that's new and it's free, and we're going to download that and see what that's about. We're going to drive the bus. We're not pulling a train. That's the other show. Anyway, that's it for me. I love each and every one of you. If you could, if you're brand new on the scene, if you could, like, share, and subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. We have donation links below. The pretty quick ones are like the CashApp, the Venmo and stuff, PayPal. But if you want to do Patreon, there's $1 a month thing. That's like $12 a year. If you want to do that, it's fine. If not, if you can share out the links, I appreciate that as well. Every little bit helps. So there it is. Mixcloud from Kate. It's in the chat there. Just check that out there. It should be fun. Guys, have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Stay out of the cults. Stay away from stupid people that turn you stupid, because I've seen it happen recently, and it's not pretty. Educate yourselves. Use your critical thinking skills. Be independent, but also, we got to talk to people. We got to get to know people that are trying to be pitted against us as our enemies, and we can't have that. We can't have this division anymore. We got to unite. That's the only way we're going to make some change, folks. Love each and every one of you. See you this weekend. Have fun. Tell your mom and them I said hey, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5. Woo!